and liking the concept. If God permits, I promise we will continue to bring such interesting and informative scientific sessions to enrich and update our knowledge in near future also. Finally, I want to admit and accept the three pillars of our webinar, Dr. Priyankur Roy, Dr. Diksha Goswami, and Dr. Vartika Kishore, without whom it will be impossible to run this show smoothly. So, thank you so much, and hope we continue to work in coordination in future also. And today again, we have come up with our next very important topic, which is a burning matter now, that is medico-legal issues, which has become an integral part of our safe practice. So before that, let me first welcome our chief guest, Dr. Sanjay Gupta sir, past President Foxy, to this forum. And sir, I want to welcome you to this KU website once again, and keep blessing us like this, sir. Thank you so much for joining. Then our guest of honor is again young, dynamic Vice President Foxy, Dr. Basav Mukherjee, who is always there to guide and help us. So welcome, sir, to this forum. Dr. Basav, thank you so much for joining. Now our special guest is Dr. Manish Machave. He is the chairperson, Ethics and Medico-Legal Committee, Foxy. So I welcome you, sir, on this forum. Now, with all humility and respect, I would like to welcome our guest speaker, Dr. MC Patel, sir. And I can only say this about him, that such down-to-earth personality is very rare to find. And he's always approachable and helpful. And sir, I'm really honored by your presence today. And I know that your talk on medico-legal issues is always so informative, enlightening, and safe practice oriented. And your practical tips always help us in dealing with our patients in right and safe way, because many a times we are not very much well versed with the different laws, and sometimes we are not at fault also, but still we don't know how to get out from that situation. So I think he's the best person to guide us, and so I'm looking forward for an enlightening talk today. And with this, I would also like to welcome our chairpersons, Dr. Rajen Singh Pandesi, sir. Again, our well-wisher, who always keep us guiding and blessing us. So, sir, I am really privileged by your esteemed presence. I also want to welcome Dr. Gorakh Mandurkar, sir, to this forum, who is Secretary for India Justices Association, and is instrumental in developing and popularizing HDP, Justices Score, an app which we are using in our daily practice and which is so user-friendly and helpful. So welcome, sir, to this forum. Thank you so much for joining. Now, this time our debaters are again really very experienced gynecologists in medico-legal field. And both are, I think, law graduate. So I welcome Dr. Rahul Vani from Navi Mumbai and Dr. Jamuna Devi Madam from Hyderabad. And we are looking forward for a very interesting action-packed performance today. And I also want to welcome our judges, Dr. Dilip Walke sir, Chairman Ethics and Medico-Legal Committee, Foxy 2007-2010, and Dr. Ajay Mane, a very promising Foxyian and an aspiring candidate for the post of Vice President, Foxy West Zone. And I take this opportunity to wish you good luck, Dr. Ajay. May all your dreams come true, and our support is always there with you. So welcome to this forum today. And finally, I would like to welcome my all-time supporters, Dr. Priyankur Roy, again a very committed, hardworking, young upcoming Foxyian, who is also contesting for the post of Public Awareness Committee. So all our blessings to you and support to you, Dr. Priyankur, and I know you will come as a winner. And I also want to welcome Dr. Diksha Goswami, a silent supporter and a well-wisher who is always there for me in crisis. And finally, Dr. Vartika Kishore, my all-time favorite and true friend. So welcome to all of you. And before I hand over the session to you all, in the end, I most humbly seek blessings from all of you to support my candidature as chairperson, International Academic Exchange Committee, FOXY. And I pledge to work sincerely to keep the FOXY flag flying high. So keep me in your prayers. Thank you once again. A warm welcome to all of you, and thank you. Thank you so much. Over to Dr. Priyankar.
Thank you so much, Pratibha ma'am. That's indeed a wonderful series that we have done over this last year and a half. And also, I would like to thank you for welcoming everyone here. And also, on behalf of everyone, I would like to wish you all the best for your International Academic Exchange Chairperson endeavor. Thank you. So now, moving ahead with this program, as ma'am has said about the quiz programs that we do. So we have a surprise quiz too at the end of the previous program. The answer is given in the next program, and also the certificate and prizes are given to the winners. So the surprise quiz question on the 23rd of December was: infarcts and necrosis are complications of what abnormality? So we have the winners with us. The quiz winner was Dr. Subhashini from Madurai. So congratulations, Dr. Subhashini. She also wins a book on D. placenta morbis. So congratulations, Dr. Subhashini, on winning this award. Next, fastest finger first winner for this quiz was Dr. Chanchal from Patna, and Dr. Shiva from Hyderabad, and also Dr. Rajshri from Kozhikode. So congratulations to all the winners of the surprise quiz which we had last time. So now it's time to honor our special guests, our guest of honors, and the chief guest of today's evening. So I would like to first of all welcome our chief guest, Dr. Sanjay Gupta sir, who is, of course, a stalwart teacher of teachers, a person who really we look up to. He has been the FIGO Ethics Committee Chair, past President of FOXY. He has been the past DIPSI President, Secretary General of the World Justice Organization, under whose leadership we did the International Justice Conference last year. He holds many posts in different committees of the Government of India and also worldwide. So it's a pleasure that sir has joined us today, and I humbly request him to bless all the faculties and delegates present here today.
Thank you, Priyankar. And to say the thing, today's team that Pratibhaji has gathered, I think is such a wonderful team and very active people. I'm so happy to be with all of you friends. And I think this is the kind of leadership we need for FOXY in the future. And seeing all of you there, I think you are the future of FOXY. And I really feel happy and elated to be amongst you all. I can start right from MC Patel to Basab and Pratibhaji and Priyankar, you yourself, and so everyone. So it's great to be here. And I'm looking forward to this wonderful seminar. I'm not going to take much of time because I want to listen to all these legal experts that we are having. So please go ahead, and I'm going to be there listening keenly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. Just a request, if you do not mind, sir, you look much younger than what the photograph in the CV. Would request you to kindly change your photograph there, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So now moving on with our guest of honor for today's evening, would like to welcome Dr. Basab Mukherjee, as ma'am has already said.
Priyankar, we can skip this part. People, I think, in the forum generally know me. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here, Dr. Pratibha. Season 5, episode 1. That is where I think you stand here. So after following Netflix very closely, season 5, episode 1 sounds very interesting and very new twists and turns. And then you gave us a feedback of what was there in the previous season. So that also was wonderful. I think it's really going in a wonderful fashion. Medico-Legal is always catchy, always important. And when Dr. MC Patel is there, Dr. Pardeshi is there, Manish is there, Sanjay sir is there, then I think it'll be just wonderful and sparks for all people who are attending. Congratulations on a brilliant endeavor. It's so important, so difficult to continue any academic endeavor for a prolonged period of time, which you have done. Organizing conferences are easy. You have adrenaline, it pushes you, you finish it and then you move forward. But continuously, month after month, going around for a long, long period of time needs a lot of passion and a lot of dedication. And congratulations, Dr. Pratibha, for you. And all the people who are contesting, all the best for the chairperson election. I think people should understand that people who are persistent and who have dedicated their work to the organization over time are people who generally deserve the votes. And all of you are very worthy. And I hope all the best for all of you. Thank you very much for.
Thank you, Basabda. I would just request you to stay on for 5 more minutes to felicitate the winners of the competitions. So, Basabda, just one thing, after the end effect of your adrenaline rush, AICOG 2023, we're all looking forward to that, of course, after Indore. And so we hope we'll have an excellent event there. Thank you, Basabda, for being here. So next, moving on to the special guest for today's evening, we have Dr. Manish Machwe, sir. Excellent orator. He is a medico-legal expert, excellent gynecologist, excellent laparoscopic surgeon. But then when you tell him to give his CV, he just gives this couple of lines. That shows the simplicity of the person. I just like to welcome you, sir, to this platform. Words from you, please.
Okay, thank you, Priyankur. Good evening, seniors, teachers, colleagues, and dear friends. At the outset, I should thank Dr. Pratibha ma'am for involving me. Fantastic topics, and the overview of work that you have done, ma'am, is really amazing, and completely agree with Basab sir that persistently producing good programs which help us in practice definitely goes in these programs recurrently. So again, wishing all the candidates all the best for their foxy endeavors, and very happy to be here in front of Dr. Sanjay Gupte, Dr. MC Patel, Dr. Rajendra Singh Pardeshi, Dr. Basab Mukherjee, Ajay is there, and all friends. So I'm really very happy. And yesterday only I saw the movie 83. I hope some people from you have seen that. It's about how we won the World Cup, and when I see all these people here, I remember that movie very well. So you can see Dr. Sanjay Gupte being Kapil Dev. You can see Dr. MC Patel being Sunil Gavaskar. You can see Dr. Rajendra Singh Pardeshi being Mohinder Amarnath, man of the match and man of the series. So I see everyone here. You can see, you can see Dilip Vengsarkar in Basab, and everybody is there. So this team today's reminds me of 83 very much yesterday. So all the best, guys. We won then, and I hope we'll win everybody's heart today and help them in their practice and work towards litigation-free, safe practice in whatever specialties they work in. So thank you for involving. Thank you so much.
Manish, we also have, Rahul, Virat, and
Yes, sir.
Rishabh amongst us, Ajay is there, Pardesh is there, Priyankur is there, Pratibhaji is there.
Yeah.
So wonderful.
So we have
team is also ready.
Yeah, so we have a 83 plus 200, 2007 plus 2011. So we have a good combination of everybody. It's
Yes.
unbeatable team.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sometimes, sir, for felicitation.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And so now we come to a very exciting part of our program, the Know Your Legend quiz, which has become, as Ma'am has said, quite a phenomenon across on the WhatsApp group, because people, as soon as the messages usually come out, the answers come in quite quickly. And this time, as Ma'am has said, we have had 142 answers, of which only 4 were wrong. But I would also say over here that of all the quizzes that we had to hear, all the quizzes that I hosted, none of the answers that I knew, except for 1 or 2. So I don't know how people get it correct all the time. So, but it's wonderful to know that people get it correct, and congratulations to all the winners. So this gentleman was Dr. Walter Reed. He is the U.S. Army. He was the U.S. Army pathologist and bacteriologist. So we have a winner who will be speaking about him later. So I'll first of all like to congratulate all the winners. So first of all, I would like to congratulate Dr. Payal Bhargava from Hyderabad. Congratulations, ma'am. I'm so sorry for that. Congratulations, ma'am. And she also wins a book on law relating to medical negligence. Congratulations, Dr. Payal.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we have the second prize winner, which is Dr. Virendra Kumar from Bellary. Congratulations, Dr. Virendra Kumar. He wins a book on procedures from medico-legal report writing. Congratulations, sir. And our third prize winner today is Dr. Pratima Shivkumar from Mumbai. Congratulations, Dr. Pratima. She wins a book on medical negligence and medico-legal aspects of patient care. So congratulations to all the 3 of you. I would next like to announce I would request Dr. Sanjay Gupta sir to kindly felicitate the winners of this quiz. Sanjay sir, you are on mute, sir.
Yes. It's my pleasure. I think it's great that people are taking interest in identifying these lesions, because, finally is the shoulders of the giants that we all stand. And I think we must recognize the history and the historical work that people have done, the pioneers. So this is a wonderful tradition. And again, I congratulate Pratibha ji, Priyankur, and all your team for having this wonderful prize. So I congratulate all the prize winners here.
Thank you so much, sir. So next we have the category of consistent winners. The people who have consistently put in the answers and given correct answers. So I would like to, before I announce the winners, I just like to mention one point. When you go through the list of the winners, you realize that they're all seniors, juniors, very senior people, professor and heads who have also participated, and from across the country, from Jammu to Kanyakumari, from Kutch to Manipur, probably we have participants. So that makes this quiz so much more interesting and gives us a motivation to take it forward. So the consistent winners, we have Dr. Manpreet Kaur from Patiala, and ma'am also wins a book on medico-legal aspects in obstetrics and gynecology, a book by our own Foxy, and we have our co-editor present here as the guest of honor, and he'll be felicitating her at the end of the announcements. So next, the next fastest finger first, we have Dr. Shirali Runwal. Now, it's become a habit. Every time I do this program, I talk about her. She's a postgraduate doing her post-graduation in Gwalior. And every time she has won this certificate of appreciation. She's just a third year postgraduate. She's made it a habit in winning here, plus all the Medha quiz programs. So congratulations, Shirali. You've got a big future forward, and I'm very sure you'll be active in Foxy with all your achievements already there. So congratulations, Shirali. Next, we have Dr. Kavita Bhatti ma'am, who's a professor and head at CMC Ludhiana. So that's what I was talking about. We have very senior people also who participate in this. So congratulations, ma'am. Next with us, we have Dr. Smriti Saxena from Dehradun, Dr. Freni Shah from Mumbai, and Dr. Rekha Rani from Agra. Congratulations to all of you. Basabda, I would request you to kindly felicitate all of them.
Thank you, Priyankur. Again, on behalf of Dr. Pratibha, Dr. Priyankur, Dr. Vertika, and the team, it's a pleasure to felicitate all the winners. A quiz always connects across ages and generations. So a quiz is always very interesting. So in webinars, I think we should have more quizzes, those spot polls which we have. I think we should have more of them, because that connects your audience and makes it more lively and friendly and interactive. So it's a wonderful thing. And again, this is a unique thing, Dr. Pratibha, as I said, the ability to continue month after month is what is something astonishing and very, very worthy of appreciation of this academic endeavor that you're doing. Thank you very much, and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Basabda. Next, moving on, I would like to congratulate the certificates of appreciation for the further participants. So can I have this slides, please, support? So we would like to congratulate Dr. Kaushik Datta Pramanik from Bardhaman, Dr. Charu Modi from Patna, Dr. Rekha Jha from Bhagalpur, Dr. Suman Sinha from Ranchi, Dr. Gayatri Rathod from Pusar, Dr. Gurpreet Batra from Prayagraj, Dr. Nikita Gandotra from Jammu, Dr. Anjana Saxena from Hapur, Dr. Parul Gadhia from Ahmedabad, Dr. Manjula Patil from Bangalore, Dr. Madhavi from Visakhapatnam, Dr. Shaila Jamal from Bareilly, Dr. Mahadev Tondare from Birar, Dr. Sangeeta Pawa from Amritsar, and Dr. Raghavi from Madurai. So congratulations to all the winners, and I would invite Dr. Manish Machwe sir to kindly felicitate them, sir. Manish sir, we can't hear you, sir. Requesting you to unmute yourself, please.
Support, kindly unmute Dr. Manish.
Send you a prompt, yes, sir.
Okay, so thank you, Priyankur. Fantastic. This idea of quiz, I agree, is very nice, and it just gives you a sense of spirit of competitiveness, where you have to know all the things, and across ages and across wherever you are, you feel like participating. So fantastic activity. Congratulations. Activity continues further also, and this idea of having a quiz like this and felicitating people, all postgraduates, stimulating them, will be picked up. I think it will be picked up by. इसके ऊपर आपका पेटेंट नहीं है मैडम, अभी सब लोग करने लगेंगे. So it will be really good activity, and it has always been, quiz has always been a fantastic activity. So congratulations to all the winners, and congratulations to you for conceiving this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Manish sir. So now I'd like to thank our guests today, Dr. Sanjay Gupta sir, Dr. Basant Mukherjee, and Dr. Manish Machwe for being here, for spending time with us, and for felicitating all the winners. Thank you so much once again. So now moving on, I would like to invite our winner of the surprise, winner of the Know Your Legend quiz, Dr. Payal Bhargava. Ma'am, can I have the CV, please? Ma'am has done a postgraduate diploma in ART and reproductive medicine. She is a member of the Indian Menopause Society, PCOS Society, and IMA Hyderabad, and she's an active member of the Hyderabad OBGYN Society as well. She has done her comprehensive critical care course from Critical Care Foundation. So it's a pleasure, ma'am. You have won here. We congratulate you for the same, and we request you to kindly go ahead and tell us about Dr. Walter Reed. We are really waiting to listen to you.
Thank you so much. Can you allow me to share my screen, please?
Support, kindly stop screen share.
Okay, please share your screen, ma'am.
So good evening, everyone. Special thanks to Dr. Pratibha ma'am for giving me this honor to participate and speak in this webinar. It's a privilege, ma'am. Thank you so much. So today I'll be talking on Dr. Walter Reed. He was US Army pathologist and bacteriologist, born in September 13, 1851 in Virginia, US. He died on November 22, 1902 in Washington, DC. He led the experiments that proved that yellow fever is transmitted by the bite of a mosquito. The Walter Reed Hospital, Washington, DC was named in his honor. So about his early years, Walter Reed was born in Virginia in 1851. He studied at private school at Charlottesville, Virginia. Reed's talent in medicine came naturally. He finished his 2-year medical course in 1 year and got his degree in 1869 when he was just 17 years old. According to the National Museum of Medicine and Health, he is still the youngest student to ever graduate from the university's medical school. Reed moved on to Belleville Hospital Medical College in New York, where he earned a second degree. Over the next few years, he interned and worked at various New York hospitals, where he made a name for himself. By 1873, the 22-year-old had been appointed to the Brooklyn Board of Health as one of its 5 inspectors. Reed was commissioned into the Army Medical Corps as a first lieutenant assistant surgeon on June 26, 1875. He returned to JHU to study bacteriology and pathology under one of the best doctors in those fields. He started doing his work there. In 1893, Reed was promoted to major and brought to Washington, D.C. He was named curator of the Army Medical Museum and professor of clinical microscopy at the newly opened Army Medical School, now named after him as the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. Later, he became a professor of bacteriology at George Washington University. The next several years produced some of the most important research of Reed's life, especially into the cause and spread of 2 important infections, typhoid and yellow fever, both huge health issues for service members. Now, in the latter half of 1800s, typhoid ravaged armies gathering for war. Of the nearly 107,000 soldiers who fought in the 1898 Spanish-American War, 21,000 contracted typhoid and nearly 1,600 died from it. Census data showed that in 1860, about 5.4% of Americans diagnosed with typhoid fever lost their lives to the disease. Meanwhile, yellow fever was ravaging southeastern state. It was also rampant in Havana, where troops fought the Spanish-American War in 1898 and remained for a few years as part of an occupation force. According to military medical data, more of these soldiers died from yellow fever and other diseases than in the battle.
So appointed chairman of a panel formed in 1898 to investigate an epidemic of typhoid fever, Reed and his colleagues showed that contact with fecal matter and food or drink contaminated by flies caused that epidemic. In May 1900, Major Reed returned to Cuba, where he was appointed head of an investigative board charged by Army Surgeon General George Miller Sternberg to study tropical diseases, particularly yellow fever. During Reed's work in Army Yellow Fever Commission in Cuba, the board demonstrated yellow fever was transmitted by mosquitoes and disproved the common belief it was transmitted by fomites, that is, clothing and bedding soiled by the body fluids and excrement of yellow fever victims. Now, this dangerous research was done using human volunteers as they had no animal involvement in this, including some of the medical personnel who allowed themselves to be bitten by mosquitoes infected with yellow fever. The members of the commission concluded that if they were going to experiment with people, they should be willing also to experiment on themselves. So here came the concept of first written informed consent. Reed created the first written informed consent document which risk of the experiments and their possible benefits. Those who agreed to be subjects in the experiments had to sign the forms. The American military governor of Cuba provided funds to set up a proper research lab, 7 tents, and a flagpole flying an American flag, and funds were also available to pay to the volunteers. The American soldiers who participated did not get paid, but the Spanish immigrants who volunteered each received $100 in gold to participate and $100 more if they got sick. For volunteers, the risk of the yellow fever experiments even seemed worth taking because being new to the island, they were likely to contract the disease in any case. At least in an experiment, they would get rapid and decent medical treatments. Now here I would like to say that the residents of Cuba were either infected and had died, or they had developed lifelong immunity to yellow fever. So it was the Americans who were more prone because they had come from outside to get the infection. So that's the reason why they volunteered in this. So Reed returned to the US Army from Cuba and continued teaching bacteriology and pathology. He was awarded honorary degrees from Harvard and the University of Michigan in 1902 and was also appointed the librarian of the Surgeon General's Library that November. Reed died from peritonitis in Washington, D.C. on 23 November 1902 after having surgery for a ruptured appendix. Respect for Reed did not dissipate after he died. His friend and colleague, Madge, William Borden, commanded the Army General Hospital and was the driving force behind a new hospital that first opened in 1909. Borden was instrumental in naming it Walter Reed General Hospital in his legendary friend's honor. The hospital eventually merged with the Army Medical Center in 1951 and was renamed the Walter Reed Army Medical Center Complex. Walter Reed National Military Medical Center opened its doors in 2011. So thank you, Dr. Reed, for your contributions to military medical science and your discovery in yellow fever. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks to Dr. Reed and thanks to Dr. Payal Bhargava also for telling us about Dr. Reed, because of course we did not know much about him, frankly, to be honestly speaking over here. So thank you so much, Dr. Payal, and congratulations to you for winning the prize as well. Pratibha ma'am, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, congratulations, Dr. Payal.
Thank you so much, Dr. Payal. So moving on with
Thank you so much.
Moving on with the next session now, that is session 2, guest speaker deliberation. I would like to hand over this session to my friend, Dr. Diksha Goswami, who is an IVF consultant in Agra, and also we have worked together in the perinatology committee last year. So Diksha, over to you to take us through this wonderful session of guest speaker deliberations.
Dr. Diksha is there.
Yeah, she's there. Diksha? Okay, so Dr. Diksha?
I think she's not there.
Okay, sure. So it's now my pleasure to get started the guest speaker deliberation session. And we have three wonderful national experts. We have three wonderful personalities, ever smiling persons and favorites of most of the people. So if I would first of all like to welcome.
It's okay. It's okay. We should skip this. We are lagging behind schedule.
We have Dr. Rajendra Singh Pardesi sir with us. He is the past Vice President of Foxy and currently the President-elect of AMOX. It's a pleasure sir has joined us here. Thank you so much, sir. Next with us, we have Dr. Gorak Mandrukar sir. Our personality has introduced gestosis, I would say, under the guidance of Sanjay Gupta sir, of course, to the Indian scenario. He has developed the gestosis app, which is used by most of us, and it's brilliantly done. And Dr. Gorak, it's wonderful to know you as a person and wonderful to be working under your guidance.
Thank you very much for inviting me here and to the prestigious session where Dr. MC Patel sir will talk. So thank you very much, Pratibha madam, Priyankur and the whole team.
Thank you, sir. So next, I would like to invite Dr. Rajendra Singh Pardesi sir to kindly invite our guest speaker today, Dr. MC Patel sir, who is also a very dear friend of his. So over to you,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you, Dr. Pratibha and Dr. Priyankur, and for inviting me such a nice webinar with the medico-legal people. See, we are common people, but Dr. Sanjay Gupta, Dr. Walke, Dr. Manish, Dr. MC Patel, they are all legal men of Foxy. So thank you so much, and wish you best in your Foxy endeavor. To Dr. Pratibha Singh, Dr. Priyankur, and Dr. Ajay Mane also. Thank you
so much, sir.
So to introduce and invite Dr. MC Patel, a legal man of Foxy, is a consultant obstetrician, gynecologist, and medico-legal counselor, Vice President Foxy, Organizing Secretary AISUG 2017, Chairperson of Ethics and Medico-Legal Committee, as I told you. Then he is a Joint Secretary, Gujarat, Organizing Chairperson, MMCon. Then honorary member of National Inspection and Monitoring Committee, honorary member State Supervisory Board, PCPNDT Committee, and President of Ahmedabad OBGYN Society, honorary member National Managing Body, Indian Red Cross Society, National President, National Medicos Organization, President IMA Ahmedabad. He was honorary surgeon, Indian Red Cross, I-Bank, and collected more than 1,000 IPS. Great. And he was organizing chairperson of Vivekanand NMOCon 2013, was President Lions Club, Gatolia, Ahmedabad in 1997-98. So the great biodata of a legal man of Foxy, Dr. MC Patel. Over to Dr. MC Patel, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Rajendra Singh Pardesi sir. Let me share my screen.
He will guide us on medico-legal issues in OB/GYN practice.
So anybody to have opening remarks or straight away I should go with my talk?
Gorak.
Sir, when you are there, yes. Nobody dare to have opening remarks, sir.
Sir,
any chairperson can have opening remarks and then
eagerly, yes, sir. Eagerly, we are waiting to hear you on the medico-legal scenarios.
Yes.
Nowadays, one should, as Dr. Manish has rightly said, not only medical knowledge, but the legal knowledge is very important. And every person who is practicing the OBGYN must know the know-hows of the medico-legal things. Dr. Sanjay Gupta, sir, he has initiated actually this moment in the Foxy. And then we all are working on this. And Dr. MC Patel, sir, since last so many years, sir, you have enlightened us on many aspects of, let it be PCP, NDT, MTP, day-to-day practice, or let it be IVF. So today, sir, we are eagerly waiting to hear you on very different medico-legal scenarios. Over to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gorak. Greetings from Statue of Unity, tallest statue of world, and we all are proud of this great statue. Medico-legal scenario in OBGYN practice, subject given to me today. I have discussed this subject so many times at so many different platforms, but let us see how one is end up into any kind of litigations as far as this scenario is concerned. Warm welcome all the delegates and wishing you a litigation-free practice. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Pratibha Singh, Madam, for inviting me to share my views about the subject. Usually, I start my talk with this: is it worth discussing? Yes, and if it is yes, then why? Because we are working in this generation. Operation सफल रहा, अब डॉक्टर को कोई खतरा नहीं. And this is the situation then. Doctor was telling patient, don't worry, nothing will happen to you. But now scenario is changed. Now patient is telling to the doctor, don't worry, nothing will happen to you. So we are working in this era, and that is why we have to discuss all this problem. And this is statistic from Indian Medical Association, Gujarat State Branch. This is a professional protection scheme which is run. And see the membership in 2017, 11,979. And out of those, 2,359 friends were facing litigation in one way or other, either notice stage, district forum, state commission, national commission, Supreme Court, criminal cases, civil cases. And see the increasing number of membership, and see the figure of 2011, 16,485 members enroll, and out of those 3,113 friends are facing litigation in one way or other. So it simply comes to 18 to 20%. So it simply means every fifth person of IMA or doctors is facing litigation in one way or other. So we can say that medical litigations are increasing in number constantly and steadily, and unluckily we gynecologists rank first as far as these medico-legal consequences are concerned. And this is alarming statistic. Medical negligence cases involving surgery account 80% of all cases, and out of which obstetrics and gynecology shares 29%, top the list, followed by orthopedics 22% and surgeon. And hospitals are found to be negligent along with doctors in 34% of the cases. So this is alarming statistic, and we have should be careful for the same. As an obstetrician, our situation is like this. We have to save mother, we have to save baby, and at the same time we have to save our own care. And this is obstetric. And naturally, we are treating two persons, mother and fetus. And in society, it is general perception that pregnancy is a physiological condition rather than pathological condition. And expectation on part of society is much more from obstetrician. And our situation is like this. The persons in the cage, we are the obstetrician and surrounded by so many risk factors as far as our practice is concerned. In our day-to-day obstetric practice, we take utmost care of our patient. But in spite of all our care and caution, accident may happen at any time, and one may end up into litigation at any time. And it is like just a very journey in a train. From our own window, we see our own train going into hell. And in practice also, we can observe this. This is real picture taken during British Navy exercise near sea coast of South Africa. And this accident has happened. So this type of accidents are also known in obstetric. And we obstetricians are just like this innocent bird, always at danger of cobra of law. An accident may happen in obstetric like this. So obstetric is a subject where accidents are very possible. Like this, accident may happen in obstetric like this. Like this. So this is obstetric. And ignorance of law is no excuse. Because as soon as any law, any act, any ordinance passes in government gazette, it is presumed by law that each and every citizen of India knows that law. So ignorance of law can never be an excuse. And obstetric emergencies are just like 9/11. And it is very late sometimes when we diagnose the thing, and one cannot be smarter like this every time. So we should be careful. Of our friends, in their mind, this will never happen to my patient.
But if we go with December 2004, we were not aware of tsunami. We thought it will never happen to us. We were not prepared for the same. But death toll stood 1,69,752 with 1,27,294 people listed missing. And then only we could realize the seriousness of tsunami. So, and see, this is tiger enjoying in the forest, just like our Foxian friends enjoying their obstetric practice in field. And they never know that complication may occur at any time. And see, this is complication. How it could be troublesome to any obstetrician in practice. So complications may occur and it will be troublesome like this. So etiology is very hard to find out and difficult to diagnose in some of the cases. And after the CP is sunk, everybody knows how it could have been saved. So as far as our any accidental, obstetric mishap or obstetric accident, this is the situation. And as far as our medical practice is concerned, we are studied with so many laws, labor laws, PCPNDT, criminal cases, CPA, MTP Act, Professional Tax, Atrocity Act, Income Tax Act, Biomedical Waste Disposal Act, Birth and Death Registration, Hospital Establishment Act, and recently amended and introduced or enacted ART and Surrogacy Act 2021. And of course, Medical Council and newer version of Medical Council, that is National Medical Commission. So our situation is like this. We are studied with so many laws, and in this laws, we have to practice. So every challenging case is a potential threat as far as medico-legal consequences are concerned. And treating serious patient could be suicide as far as medico-legal consequences are concerned. And scenario may change in our practice like this. Like this, scenario may change in obstetrics. So we should be careful. And we are bombarded with so many questions when something goes wrong. Why this happened? Who is responsible for that? Why you couldn't prevent it? Where were you? So we are bombarded with so many questions when something goes wrong. Let us see few of the cases. They are real happened cases and our Foxian friends who have faced this case. It was unbooked patient, investigated and treated by another gynecologist. As a customary tradition, it is a real case of Gujarat only. A patient goes to maternal place for delivery in first delivery. So previously she was at her in-laws place and some gynecologist was looking after. But with this gynecologist at maternal place of patient, it was very first visit with this gynecologist. Patient came at 7 a.m. With labor pain. It was breach at perineum, delivered by assisted breech delivery. Just after normal delivery of placenta and membrane, she developed convulsions and sudden cardiac arrest. She was resuscitated well. Opinion and help from physician and anesthesiologists were taken, and they decided to ship patient to tertiary care center for further care. And during course of treatment, patient expired after 4 days of the treatment. Case was filed. Notice was served. So allegation on part of relatives was, we had been to normal consultation to doctor and he gave heavy injection in glucose bottle. So she delivered and developed convulsions and cardiac arrest. So doctor handed over all the papers of treatment given to his advocate, but he didn't appear in the court even once. So inference held by the court that doctor has not bothered to remain present in the court even once, and papers which were handed over to advocate for any reason, advocate didn't produce those records of treatment given to the court. So one more inference held by court was, doctor has not produced any document about treatment given. So in this particular case, compensation worth rupees 3 lakhs with cost with interest was awarded. This case is almost 25 years old. So at that time, 3 lakhs was the very big amount. So carry home message with this particular case, never rely upon advocate totally. Be in constant touch of your advocate and give him inputs about your case. related to medical grounds, both favor and against. Let us see one more case. It was an unbooked patient, primary 34 weeks pregnancy with PIS. Same thing. She was at her in-laws' place, and this was very first visit with this gynecologist at her maternal place, and she was diagnosed PIH and 34 weeks of pregnancy. Advised necessary investigation and treatment, but unlucky on part of patient. Very next day, she developed abruptio placentae with intrauterine fetal death. Cesarean section was advised, but relative opted option to go for second opinion, and patient was shifted to nearby town in other town, and they went to surgeon and not to gynecologist in nearby town. Cesarean section was advised, but unlucky on part of patient again. She developed atonic PPH. Surgeon was doing cesarean section, and gynecologist was assisting in this particular case. And ultimately, in spite of all their efforts, they couldn't prevent bleeding, PPH, so hysterectomy was done. So imagine the situation: primary patient, intrauterine fetal death, and hysterectomy. And case was filed, notice was served. Luckily, I was defending both of them, that particular gynecologist and surgeon, and ultimately we won the case. But allegation was on part of relative and patient to first gynecologist was not properly managed to prevent abruptio placentae. This was very first visit. He investigated the patient accordingly. He advised necessary treatment. Even and unlucky on part of patient, she developed abruptio placentae and IUFD. But allegation that doctor couldn't prevent abruptio placentae. As far as surgeon, allegation was not tried to prevent PPH. And one more allegation was atonic PPH was not managed properly. So in this case, we could prove in court of law, we took all the precautionary measures, and at the time of PPH, we did everything to control bleeding. But in spite of all our efforts, we couldn't prevent bleeding. Of course, blood transfusion was also given during the surgery. And ultimately, to save life of the patient, we sacrificed the uterus, was my last argument in court of law, and we won the case. Let us see one more important case. Again, she was primary. She was known case of mitral stenosis with bilateral poliomyelitis. She was investigated at Mehsana, which is district place of Gujarat. She was advised not to have pregnancy before proper treatment of mitral stenosis. But usual, patient was careless. She was pregnant and appeared for very first visit at 20 weeks of pregnancy with non-compensated cardiac activity. So she was advised treatment with balloon mitral valvotomy. But again, patient absconded from the hospital, didn't take it seriously, and reappeared for second visit at 34 weeks of pregnancy, again with non-compensated cardiac activity. So balloon mitral valvotomy with termination of pregnancy was advised. Cesarean section was done, but unlucky on part of patient and that gynecologist, she developed stitch sepsis and ultimately went into septic shock, transferred to cardiac institution for ICCU care, but during course of treatment, patient expired. Notice was served, case was filed, and allegation on part of relative was no proper care taken to avoid sepsis, leading to septic shock and ultimately death. One more interesting case. It was case of lower segment cesarean section. During cesarean section, it was bilateral uterine artery tear. Patient was RH negative. Blood was not ready. Cross match was not done. Actually, in this particular case, patient had been to this gynecologist before 4 days. She was advised planned cesarean section, but they didn't give consent for planned cesarean section, and they left the hospital. And after 4 days in emergency, at 11:30 p.m., a patient was to this gynecologist. So it was difficult for her to manage as far as RH negative blood was concerned. So during shifting patient, as it was bleeding due to the bilateral uterine artery tear, a patient was shifted to municipal medical hospital. During shifting patient, Municipal Medical Hospital, expired on the way. Notice was served, case was filed. So allegation on part of relatives was not anticipated complication, procedure or intensive care. So when patient was RH negative, she was not readily available to deal with situation accordingly. And in post-mortem examination, it was common intra-abdominal hemorrhage following negligent surgical procedure. Of course, in PM examination, this can be challenged because negligent surgical procedure, person who is doing post-mortem examination, it is very difficult for him to comment this type of comment. But inference held by the court was no blood kept ready and medical records not to be believed. Because in this particular case, note submitted by gynecologist and anesthesiologist were contradictory. Gynecologist wrote that vitals were within normal range and anesthesiologist wrote vitals were compromised. So both the records were contradictory and so the records were not taken into consideration. So in this particular case, compensation of 2.35 lakhs was awarded in favor of relative. So it is our observation that 80% of medical legal cases against gynecologists are obstetric related problems. 80% of these cases are related to cesarean section complications and 80% of complications are related to hemorrhage. So if one wants to be 80% free of litigation, take care of bleeding, that is hemorrhage, cross-match blood. No cross-matching blood during high-risk delivery is the reason for litigations in many of the cases. So carry on message with this case, cross-match, and especially when patient is RH negative and keep blood ready. And for blood transfusion, take separate consent from the patient and proper record keeping is very much important. Your record with your colleague should not be contradictory. And one more carry on message with Dr. Dilip Walke. Many of us cross-match for every patient in labor and prove that they are very cautious or having abundant caution. Do you? So it should be routine to send blood for cross-matching and demand blood if it is required from blood bank because it saves very precious time in acute emergency. Let us see one more important case. It was unbooked patient with labor pain, tried for normal delivery, but convulsion started during labor and cesarean section was advised, blood transfusion was advised, but relative opted option to transfer patient to municipal hospital. It was in private prior. So on the way, patient expired, dead body was received by municipal medical hospital, post-mortem examination was done, and it turned out to be a case of organophosphorus poisoning. And notice was served, and allegation on part of police was why police was not informed when it was case of organophosphorus poisoning. On part of relative, allegation was it was delayed in taking judgment, it was delayed in transfer, caused death. So carry on message with this particular case is in time reference, in time transfer to the appropriate place, and inform police whenever you are in a little doubt. One more important case, this case also happened in city of Ahmedabad only. It was case of inevitable abortion. DNA was advised where anesthesiologists are very easily available in Ahmedabad, but this gynecologist friend preferred to go with paracervical block and there was sudden cardiac arrest on the table. She was resuscitated well, help from physician and anesthesiologist were shouted, but ultimately patient went into vegetative form and expired after 1 year of the treatment at home and case was filed and notice was served. Same type of case happened in city of Ahmedabad only. It was missed period, previous 2 LSCS, willing for termination of pregnancy. Again, this gynecologist also preferred to go with paracervical block. And in this case also, there was sudden death on table. And in spite of all efforts, patient could not have been saved. And notice was served, case was filed. So with both these cases, carry-home messages in all anesthesiologists whenever required, because it shows your consent to take proper care of patient. So, considering all these cases we discussed, what happens when something goes wrong? Exploitation starts. When you are happily enjoying this type of parachute sailing, you never know this much crocodiles are ready to receive you at bay. So in any obstetric problem, this is the scenario. And Vastraharan starts. When something goes wrong, Vastraharan starts by whom? By patient, by relative, by politicians, by police, by pleader, by press, by so-called social workers, by protection group. So beware of all these people. And what could be the reaction on part of a doctor? Litigation, oh my God. And one is confused. And naturally, when you are facing this type of signal at crossroad, naturally you will be confused. And one may try to hide the thing, one may be panic, one may try to ignore the things, and one may try to influence through friends, through relative, by money, through muscle power, or through politicians. And many times legal phobia starts. But is this end of road? No, not at all. Then what to do and how to prevent? Practice foreseeability, that is anticipation, good communication and proper consent and proper documentation, and you will be simply sailed through. So as far as foreseeability or anticipation is concerned, any court, any law expect from you that you should anticipate certain complication or procedure required and intensive care. Say, for example, if you are dealing with a case of previous two LSCS with central placenta previa, naturally one should anticipate that she may end up into PPH and even obstetric hysterectomy may be required. You should be readily available to deal with the situation with all measures of blood transfusion, etc. So if you have done this, and if you can prove in court of law, then it shows your consent to save life of patient. But all in this situation, proper communication or proper counseling is very much important, because more is the time you spend with patient in consulting room, less is the possibility you needing to spend time with the patient or relative in the courtroom, because communication is key to avoid litigation. And it is very obvious that we might have the best medicine in the world, but it won't be successful if patient doesn't understand it. And as far as our counseling is concerned, usually we start like this: what is the complaint? So there are so many questions on part of patient. Why did it happen? How it can be avoided? Will it happen again? Could it have been avoided? So at the time of counseling, we are under obligation to explain about alternative modalities of treatment, morbidity, probable expense, mortality, prognosis, complications, blood transfusions, risk involved, and outcome of baby should also be explained to the relative in case of obstetric, and need of NICU care should also be explained. And it should be explained in a very simple language, no much medical jargon. We should explain language which patient can easily understand, and no rosy picture, no tall claim about the result, because when you claim to be master in eye of law, you are supposed to be master. And in our obstetric practice, when we consider result of our treatment like Aishwarya Rai, but it may turn like this at any time. So no tall claim, no rosy picture about result. So proper communication, and when you take signature on consent paper, then it becomes a documentation of your communication. Because in famous case of C. Jaipal Reddy versus Padmini Velluri, National Commission has very specifically mentioned that consent paper is not mere piece of paper where patient or relative has to sign, but it is a very important document of your communication to the patient and relative. And when you have counsel everything to the patient and relative, and when you take signature, then it becomes a documentation of your communication. And when you offer all this record in the court, it becomes a communication of your documentation. Because this is a famous maxim, volenti not fit injuria. It simply means one who accepts the risk cannot complain about it. And this can be employed here also. So say, for example, in a game of wrestling, when two opponents enters in the ring, they know that it is all likely that they may be injured from opponent. So if somebody is injured in wrestling ring, he cannot complain, he cannot sue opponent for injury. So voluntary not fit injuria is the famous maxim. But in all these situations, records are always at your rescue. So keep them up to date. What was done, nothing was neglected, and given treatment fully met with standard demanded by law and ethics, and it should be easily acceptable whenever offered in the court. Because a doctor is bound to produce record whenever asked by the court, and if he doesn't, then adverse inference might be drawn. And it is very obvious. Good record is good defense, poor record is poor defense, and no record is no defense. And it has been my experience during my medical legal practice. Doctors are very poor as far as record keeping is concerned. So keep them up to date. It should be in chronological order, not too perfect, because many a time what happens when we are facing any litigation, make a very perfect case, but smart advocate on prosecution may ask records of the co-patients also. And if you have not maintained record in all the patients in the same manner, then it may go against also. It should not be visibly manipulated. And omissions of obvious step you cannot afford, and there should not be contradictory notes. Say, for example, atonic PPH versus traumatic PPH. So your note should be very confirmatory. Visit your indoor patients regularly and make a habit to enter it into indoor records. We have habit to visit our patient in indoor, but we have no habit to enter into records. So make a habit to enter it into record. And proper post-operative care, especially when you have operated at another nursing home, because it is your duty. Either you manage or you manage to be managed at that particular place where you have operated. You should keep 2 sets of records when you are facing litigation. So at any given time, you can submit records whenever asked by the investigating officer. This is very important. Important bills. Bill of oxygen cylinder, ventilator, defibrillator, instrument like ambu bag, and all the emergency drugs. And very important is refilling of oxygen cylinder bill. It is a very important document because in this particular case, in this case, it was case for tooth extraction only, but he developed Ludwig's angina thereafter, and surgery was planned. During surgery, there was sudden cardiac arrest and patient expired. Relative is that at the time of the patient when suffered a cardiac arrest, oxygen cylinders were empty, and we could produce bill of refill just 2 days prior, and we could save our case due to that bill only. So this is very important document, that is the refilling of oxygen bill. In era of COVID-19, as far as our counseling is concerned, we should explain about possibility of spread patient to others, from others to patient, with all precautionary measures. And at the time of eliciting the history, international travels or interstate travels, or history of contact with COVID patient or suspected COVID patient, or any history of quarantine home or hospital. And if at all patient turn out to be positive, then please inform appropriate authority as per government notification. And if your hospital is recognized to deal with COVID patient, then you can very well treat. Otherwise, you refer patient to respective hospital. Because in few of the litigations, allegation was that when patient was positive, why you didn't inform appropriate authority. So be aware that to inform appropriate authority. As far as record is concerned, do not alter records, because it leads to a loss of credibility in the court. And you can have record on paper, on dictaphone, on computer, or any other media, but you should preserve record. For how much years you should preserve? As said, there is no law except only 2 laws. This is PCP and DT Act. We have to preserve all the records related to PCP and DT for 2 years. For MTP, 5 years. But in all other records, there are some guidelines from IMA, from Medical Council. So we should keep at least for 7 years for our all indoor case papers are concerned. And in group of pediatric patients, as far as our obstetric delivery patients are concerned, 18 plus 3. So for 21 years, preserve all the records, and for income tax purpose, at least for 10 years. But recently there was some amendment in income tax also. And now if we can preserve record for 5 years, then it will be sufficient. Keep originals with you while doing any correspondence as far as your records are concerned. Discharge card is very important document. Once again, give proper instruction to the patient about diet to be taken, about exercise, about medicine to be taken, about follow-up. Because if at all patient doesn't follow your instruction, then it becomes a contributory negligence on part of patient, and it becomes very good support in your favor. So all the instruction should be very carefully mentioned in discharge card. And this is important. Whatever you have advised, and if patient doesn't follow, then document it. Say, for example, didn't come for checkup, add advice, document it. Didn't get blood sugar advice, document it. So many times you will be experiencing at the time of your counseling, patient is brought by a relative and her mother-in-law or sister-in-law complain. Doctor, she is not taking medicine properly, she is not taking proper food, she is not taking proper meal. Make a habit to enter into record, patient is not taking treatment regularly, history given by mother-in-law. This simple 2 sentences becomes a good defense in your favor if at all something goes wrong. So is it important to enter all this in discharge card? Yes, because in this famous case which happened in state of Tamil Nadu, compensation of rupees 1.8 crore was awarded in favor of patient. It was preterm delivery. Patient was admitted in NICU. In due course, patient was discharged. But at the time of discharge, relatives were not explained. It was preterm delivery, premature baby. So you should consult ophthalmologist to rule out retinopathy due to prematurity. And ultimately, this baby went blind, and compensation of 1.8 crore was awarded. Of course, 1.73 crore was to be paid by government of Tamil Nadu because it happened in government hospital, and rest of the amount was to be paid by neonatalist friend who treated patient in NICU. So take tender care of your patient. Telephonic instruction to be avoided. Of course, very casual telephone instruction, it's fine. But as far as very specific treatment is concerned, it could be dangerous in future. So try to avoid making statements that might be construed as an admission of fault on your part should also be avoided. Casual discussion of treatment with anyone should always be avoided. Review textbook and medical articles relating to medical issue in the case both strength and weakness whenever you are facing any litigation. So have a textbook or journals references both in your favor and your against. And this is very important thing. Give follow-up treatment to the patient who has served you a notice if required, because you cannot abandon patient in between. And if as usual, this is not acceded to, then case may be filed. On other hand, if answered properly, may prevent further litigation. So do not abandon patient, that particular patient who have served you a notice, and be ready to be helpful to your professional colleague in this type of situation whenever he asks for help. Because balanced teamwork is always beneficial to the patient and to the neurologist. Select proper staff, supervise and lead them properly. कठोर परिश्रम का कोई विकल्प नहीं. Ever never give up, because ultimately you will be succeeded. Use your optimum skill. Always examine female patient in a presence of female nurse or relative. Always obtain informed consent before doing any procedure or surgery. Check your equipment, instrument, medicine at regular interval and keep them up to date. Do not ignore any complication due to size, because it may prove troublesome in future. Do not get hit wicked. Know your limits. Do not take risk. Remain alert every time. Otherwise, be ready to face this type of situation in obstetric. Observe confidentiality of patient. Patient must not be abandoned. Transfer of patient is also very much important. And who will decide where a patient is to be transferred? Naturally, patient, relative, should be collective decision. And at the time of transfer, whenever you give transfer papers, have a signature of patient or husband or relative and witness, and time and date is very much important. Confirm availability of bed, operation theater, instrument like ventilator with right and proper person where you are referring the patient. Because many times it may happen that patient which is there and bed is not available or OT is not available. So it becomes difficult for patient also to shift to one more other hospital. Escort of patient is also very much important, and pneumatic anti-shock garment in case of shock becomes very important, and we should refer patient in this condition whenever you are referring the patient. Accompanying the patient in the same ambulance with all the emergency drugs, IV fluids and oxygen cylinder. If treating doctor is busy, then equally qualified person, anesthesiologist, is the best person to escort the patient. And handing over of the patient to hospital where you have referred the patient to proper person, either in charge, concert, that is CMO, or on-duty doctor, and let the receiving doctor take charge of patient in front of relative of the patient, because relatives are your witness that you had handed over patient in a particular situation. And again, time is very important factor. So whenever you have acknowledgement on your case paper, then date and time should be very well mentioned and make it obvious. So acknowledgement is very much important. Transfer documents you have to given to the all the transfer document to the patient, and it is long list. I do not want to go into detail, but all these documents are available on Foxy website. If you visit uniform consent, Dr. Dilip Walke from Pune, Dr. Nikhil Datar from Mumbai, and myself, Dr. MC Patel from Ahmedabad, we have prepared almost 30 uniform consent for different procedure and different surgeries. Say, for example, cesarean section, hysterectomy, transferring critically ill patient, medical termination of pregnancy, medical or surgical. So simply you have to visit Foxy website, uniform consent, and in preparing this consent, Dr. Gupte sir was our guide, and we had also a long discussion with Maharashtra Law Society, two retired High Court judges, one sitting High Court judge, one sitting judge in National Commission. We had a long discussion, even for one word or one line. We had a discussion for hours together. And then after we have come out with this uniform consent, you have simply visit, and our request go through. And if at all any suggestion, we are open to edit. So please take advantage of that Foxy website. This is the list of transfer document. It is there in Foxy website also. Preserve transfer notes of patient. Whatever notes you have given to the patient, one copy should be with you and it should be acknowledged. Follow up of patient where you have referred the patient, either on telephone or personally. So it shows your consent about the patient, and it helps in avoiding unnecessary and unwanted comments about yourself or previous treatment. So at the end, think positive, do positive, and be positive. And if you are served with a notice, then stay calm, try to avoid surprise, anger, panic, and self-doubt. Do not ignore the things. Be honest and do not try to hide any facts. Inform insurance company and have a talk to your senior colleague. That is your medical opinion. You can have a phone call to advocate. That is legal opinion. And if you have a phone call to any medical legal expert, Dr. MC Patel, Manish Machwe, Dilip Walke, we are always there to assist you and relax. So reply notice in time and keep a copy of notice. Do not get confused whether boy is hugging the girl or girl is hugging the boy. Never get confused. Have a assistance from medical legal person. Manage the situation promptly, precisely, efficiently, effectively, and meticulously. In 40% litigation, doctor is behind doctor, because in our fraternity, scenario is like this. Scenario is like this. So be aware of this. So do not criticize other doctors or paramedical person, because if this is possible, if this is possible, if this is possible, if cat and dog can share milk from the same dish, then why can't we? So friends, do fight with each other, but be ready to fight for each other. अच्छा है कि छेद हमारी तरफ नहीं है, but we never know. We are sailing in the same boat, and never quarrel in between, so that third party should be at advantage. So in our medical profession, this is very much needed, and it is a need of time. So scenario in our practice is like this. See, this is only 1 minute small video. So scenario is like this. But can we do like this? Then problem will be solved. So it is very much required nowadays. So in 40% of the litigations, rough behavior on part of doctor and hospital staff is responsible. So 40 plus 40, almost 80% litigations are preventable. So courtesy, consideration, and communication is always better. And your approach to the patient should be like this and not like this. Do not spoil your general impression, because your deed is always watched by somebody, and never say I am insured. Because many times you say to the patient or relative, do whatever you like, I am insured with insurance company, you lose sympathy. So never say that I am insured. Never detain patient for recovering the fees, because you may invite litigation under section 340 of IPC, and there is a provision of imprisonment of 1 year and or fine of rupees 1,000 or both. So you cannot detain patient for recovering the fee. So it doesn't matter how many resources you have. If you do not know how to use them, they will never be enough. So have some basic legal knowledge. Always obtain medical legal advice. Whenever you are in doubt, there is always a way. So to conclude my talk with carry home messages: antenatal and labor ward protocols, adequate supervision and monitoring, communication and counseling and proper consent, proper documentation and proper record keeping, foreseeability and anticipation and readily available to deal with the situation, multi-speciality approach. Do not hesitate to take help from your professional colleague, prompt diagnosis with necessary investigations, post-operative care by operating surgeon, especially when he has operated at others nursing home, qualified anesthesiologist, and of course, medical audit of our own case. It will be very helpful. Formation of local level medical legal cell. When I was Vice President Foxy in 2018, I had taken this issue. So in each and every society, there should be a medical legal cell. So in any given situation, one can avail services from the cell. So this is very much important. No compromise on statutory requirements. Comply with the provisions of law. Professional indemnity, of course, it is needed in era of CPN when huge compensation is awarded. So you cannot practice without professional indemnity. So be vigilant in your practice and remain alert every time. Otherwise, be ready to face this type of situation in any situation. Take medical legal advice from point 1 and identify yourself well in the court. Otherwise, be ready to face this type of situation. And usually we cross zebra crossing, but day may come that zebra may cross human crossing. And what we do when there is a fire? Naturally, we call firefighter. So nothing to worry. Manage the situation accordingly. If ever you need me, I will be just round the corner. Because medicine is not exact science, I shall use my experience, knowledge, and judgment to it. I may go wrong, or anything with patient may go wrong anytime. I guarantee nothing but my honest effort and care for you. I am not God, but well-trained professional wanting to take care of patient. So this should be our approach, and it is very obvious. Good doctor treats the disease, but great doctor treats the patient. And very truly said by Swami Vivekananda, real genius is one who can hold two opposing ideas in mind at the same time and still maintain ability to work in a smooth, efficient, and fast manner. I think it was written for obstetrician only. See, Gorak, Swami Vivekananda has written that real genius is one who can hold two opposing ideas in the mind at the same time and still to maintain ability to work in a smooth, efficient, and fast manner. Only obstetrician can do. So it was very specifically written for obstetrician, and said by Albert Einstein, only two things are infinite, the universe and human stupidity. And I am not so sure about the former. So wish you and me too all the best. And in spite of this occupational and professional hazard, our journey to serve human and mankind is always on and on. And if you want to sleep like this, take tender care of your patient. Pray your Almighty God before going to sleep and keep my visiting card below your pillow. So this is a law of leopard behind innocent gynecologists, and how medico-legal counselor could be helpful in any given situation. So do not hesitate to take benefit or assistance from any of medico-legal person. And to end my talk in a lighter way, in a very fine morning, gentleman was reading newspaper, and devil said, I am devil. So that gentleman said, yes, good for you. So are you not afraid of me? And that gentleman said, no, I am not afraid of you. And then that devil said, I can cause you a profound, horrifying physical agony for all eternity. Then also you are not afraid of me. And then that gentleman said, oh, I am sure you can, but still I am not afraid of me. And then that devil said, why you are not afraid of me? And that gentleman said, I have been married to your sister since 37 years, and that is obstetric practice. So when we are versed with obstetric practice, we have not to worry with devil. Satya pareshan ho sakta hai, lekin parajit nahi. So God bless you and have a litigation-free medical practice. With regards, salute to the organizers and particularly Dr. Singh. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. Please do not assume, please ask if any query, if time and chairpersons permit. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. I think it was indeed great pleasure to hear you, listen you again and again. And nowadays, there is always worry in our mind that how to go ahead with so many medical legal litigations and all. But once we hear, sir, then definitely he enlightens the path, how we can prevent the medical legal litigations, how we can handle the medical legal litigations, and the very important message what he has given to all of us, that if we are really true, then we should not worry.
Yes.
The very important message what he has given is we are working a lot, but we are documenting a less, and we should document each and every thing. Third thing, he has said that whenever we are handing over any document, let it be for medical legal case or anything, then we should be very well we see whether whatever we have written is as per the law. We should not hesitate to take a opinion of a medical legal expert, and then just not to worry. And if what a very important thing message sir has given कि सत्य परेशान हो सकता है लेकिन पराजित नहीं हो सकता. So I think yes sir, and thank you very much sir, and I thank प्रतिभा जी that आपने बहुत दिनों के बाद सर को वापस ये सब सबके लिए सुनने के लिए रखा, क्योंकि ये बार बार बीच में ऐसे सब रखना होना चाहिए. अदरवाइज होता क्या है कि ये हार्ट का जो टेंशन है ना, ये एड्रेनलिन नॉरएड्रेनलिन इतना तकलीफ देता है बीच बीच में, लेकिन सर को जब सुनते हैं तो आई थिंक वी गेट पेसिफाइड. सो थैंक यू वेरी मच सर वंस अगेन, and over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. MC Patel sir. He has explained very nicely, and each and every time I heard this talk many times, but every time he is explaining in different ways, and each and everything he is explaining in simple language. Thank you so much, Dr. MC Patel sir. And MC, as I told you, he is one of our folksy legal man, absolutely legal man. We are common men. and he is guiding us. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. It has always been a great treat to listen to you, sir. And I'm sure we all, yeah, Priyankur.
Yeah, Diksha, before you take over, just wanted to mention one thing here. MC Patel sir has been a mentor for many youngsters like me, and thank you, Patel sir, for always being there for us, for the excellent talks that you always give. And also, I would like to say one thing which I keep saying in after all his talks, that when we hear your talk, we feel very disheartened and we feel, oh, tomorrow I should leave obstetric practice. But then at the end of the day, we know that MC Patel sir is there and he'll bail us out of everything. So thank you so much, sir, for being there always. Diksha, over to you.
Priyankur, he is mentor to me also.
Absolutely. To many of us. Exactly. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. I just wanted to say that I'm sure that all the delegates greatly benefited from sir's expertise, and in such a light-hearted way, with amazing visuals and videos which are worth more than 1,000,000 words. Sir demonstrated real case-based scenarios, and he gave such fine nuances and take-home crisp messages like documentation, record keeping, how to transfer the patient, good communication skills, and consent. So thank you a lot. Thanks a lot, sir, for your valuable talk. And thanks to all, and thanks to both our respected chairpersons also, Dr. Rajendra Singh Pardesi sir and Dr. Gorak. And since I just joined, I also wanted to pay my regards to our respected mentors and experts here today, our chief guest, Dr. Sanjay Gupta sir, our guest of honor, Dr. Basab sir, and our special guest, Dr. Manish Machave sir. So now moving on, we have a surprise question for today's episode on medico-legal obstetrics and gynecology. Can I have the surprise question, please? And as always, we have a question which focuses on the key topic which we are discussing. And we do award our winner some great textbooks. And today's quiz winner wins a textbook on legal issues in medical practice and a certificate. And the question for today's web series is, so as we all know, the MTP Amendment Bill 2020 was introduced recently. It includes all except pregnancy can be terminated by a married woman up to 20 weeks in case of failure of contraception. Unmarried women can also terminate a pregnancy due to failure of contraception. Only a state medical board can decide regarding termination of pregnancies beyond 20 weeks. And the fourth option is a medical practitioner can only reveal the details of a woman whose pregnancy has been terminated to a person authorized by law. So a topic which everyone faces, and we should be aware of what are the changes which have come about to the MTP bill. Yeah, I can see about 13 people have answered. We have some more, I think another 10 seconds to go. And the results will be declared in our next episode for this surprise quiz. I think we can end the poll now. Yeah. So now moving on to our next session, a most interesting debate, a question which faces all of us at some time during our practice. And the quiz for today is whether no surgery should be performed without prior informed consent. And for this very interesting quiz session, I invite my first chairperson for today, Dr. Dilip Walke, sir. Sir is a consultant at MediPoint Hospital and Jupiter Hospital, Pune, chairman of the Ethics and Medico-Legal Committee, FOXY in the past, president of the Pune Obs and Gynae Society 2019-20, and founder director of DR RAC's Telemedicine Solutions. I welcome you, sir, and I invite you, sir, to introduce our first speaker for the debate, Dr. Rahul Wani, sir, who will be speaking for the motion. Yeah, our second chairperson is Dr. Ajay Mane, sir. Welcome, sir. Sir is member of NIMC, National Inspection and Monitoring Committee, PCPNDT Wing, Government of India, Medico-Legal Consultant since 18 years, Chairperson of the official AMOGS website, Chairperson Sexual Medicine Committee, Adolescent Health Committee, AMOGS, past President of the Aurangabad Obs and Gynae Society, ex-Superintendent of the MGM Medical College, Aurangabad, trainer of Foxy Adolescent Health Committee and Health Advisor, Sports Authority of India, Aurangabad, and Charter President of the Rotary Club. Welcome, Ajay sir. I think Dr. Dilip sir is not here, so maybe sir.
Hello?
Yeah,
He's there. Yeah.
I'm there.
Okay, yeah, sir, please. I
think Dilip sir is always present.
Okay, I'm always present. Okay.
Yes,
fine.
yes.
So thank you very much for this opportunity, and very happy to introduce my friend Rahul Wani, who's a consultant at Mathadi Hospital Trust, obstetrician and gynecologist at Archana Maternity Home, and more than whatever is mentioned in his on the slide. I don't want to read all that. I must tell you that he is a fantastic friend, a great person, and more than that, he is a good lawyer, and his understanding about medico-legal aspects is such highly appreciated by all of us who are the so-called medico-legal experts in Foxy, that I see Rahul Wani as the next Manish Matswe of Foxy, having all the knowledge in medico-legal aspect. So here Rahul Wani is going to talk against the motion, is it, or for the motion?
For the motion.
Huh?
For the motion. For the motion.
Okay. So let's get started. I think let's not waste time in all this introduction. Let's get started with it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for those wonderful words. I really appreciate so many seniors, all the legal experts to whom I look forward to listening to them so that I can gain experience from them and gain knowledge from them. So the topic today for me, can I share my screen, please?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the topic given to me is a debate on whether
Consent.
Yeah, you can see my slides now. Yeah.
Yes, done.
Yes, it is seen.
No surgery should be performed without prior informed consent, and this has been put as a debate. Now I really wonder, is this really a debate? We have no option. We have to follow the law of the land. Let me draw your attention to the Supreme Court judgment in the case of Samira Kohli versus Dr. Prabha Manchandana and our own Indian Medical Council guidelines. Now, Section 33 of the Indian Medical Council Act 1956, there's a chapter on disciplinary action, which enumerates a list of responsibilities which we as clinicians have to follow. And violation of these responsibilities is considered as professional misconduct. The clause 13 in this chapter says, before performing an operation, the physician should obtain in writing consent of the patient or the guardian, as the case may be. And in Samira Kohli versus Dr. Prabha Manchandana, this question was principally settled. This is a settled principle of law of consent in this case. There was a question framed by the Supreme Court in this case. We all know about this case. I don't want to go into the details of the case. I will be very brief. And the question put forward by the Supreme Court was whether informed consent of patient is necessary for surgical procedure. And after all deliberations and considering all case laws and everything, the summarized principle of this case law was consent is required. It should be a real and valid consent. That means real and valid means the person who is giving consent should have capacity and competence to give consent. It should be voluntary. It should be with adequate information, and it should be for a lawful purpose. So this is a very, very settled principle decided by the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court's judgment, we all know, as by our constitution, everyone has to follow. So there is no option. We all have to follow this. Now, what does this adequate information mean? We have to explain the nature and procedure of the treatment, the purpose of the treatment, its benefits and effect, alternatives if any available, outline of substantial risk and adverse consequences of refusing treatment. The court has further gone ahead and said, no extension of scope of surgery unless it is necessary to save the life or preserve the health of the patient, and where there would be unreasonable delay to wait till patient regains consciousness. That means if you are doing a surgery and you find something abnormal, if it is not life-threatening, then you should not go ahead outside the scope of the consent which has been given by the patient. You should close the abdomen, you let the patient come back to consciousness, discuss the findings, and then if the patient gives consent, go ahead with the surgery. We heard Dr. MC Patel right now. So in his deliberations, he has definitely said informed consent is very much necessary, and documenting that consent is also very necessary to serve as a good defense for us. Now I've just put this slide, Singh is king. What do I really mean by this is, the consumer is the king. We are covered under the Consumer Protection Act, where the consumer is the king. The patient might be a Singh. He might not understand medical knowledge, or he might not understand what treatment you are proposing. But as a service provider, we are duty bound to explain whatever is available to the patient. It could be medical treatment, it could be surgical treatment. In the surgical treatment, it could be laparotomy, it could be laparoscopy, and final decision is left to the patient. And if there are so many options available, and we go ahead with one of the options without the patient's consent being documented, if something goes wrong, the patient can turn back and say, "I never consented for this." So how are you going to protect yourself? It is the documented consent which will protect you. Now, this is what I was talking about, consumerism and consumer courts. Now, if you want to buy a vehicle, there are so many options which are available. When you go to the dealer, he will tell you the horsepower of the car, the torque of the car, the anti-brake system. You might not understand any of the things, but he will have to give you whatever you choose. The ultimate choice is yours. So this is what is about consumerism. In today's world of consumerism, the patient is the king. We as service providers have to give all the information, and the choice is left to the patient. And we need to document whatever we have informed him and whatever his choices. And I'm really curious, and I appreciate the courage of Dr. Jamuna Devi to take up such a topic to speak against the settled principle of this law. So over to you, Dr. Jamuna Devi. I am very curious to hear you.
Rahul. Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Pratibha. It's really nice. And I think I have to put my brain and everything into that and see how I can talk to Rahul. And I have to contradict Rahul now. Yes, as you said, informed consent is very, very important. And I will go by this law. But in emergency situations where the life of the women is more important, I can give an example. Like if you are doing a cesarean section and you end up into a atomic PPH, and you have done everything to save the life of, treat that lady, but despite that, you had to go for a hysterectomy, emergency hysterectomy. So you have to go for it to save the life of that woman. Here, we don't wait for the consent of that woman. So I feel that in life-threatening situations, consent is not required. But in all other situations, consent is required. I think that is my debate for your point.
I think that solves the question. In emergencies, there was no provision for a consent. When it is life-saving, you can go ahead without the consent. So that is also a settled principle of law. So we all agree that there is no debate. Informed consent is required wherever there are elective surgeries. Emergencies, depending upon the situation, you can go ahead without the consent also.
Yes,
Yeah,
Rahul,
because
sir,
there are
and,
a case where
yeah, Jamuna madam, please.
Yeah,
Jamuna, don't give up. Don't give up. Keep on arguing. I mean,
Yes.
this debate cannot end just like that. Keep on arguing.
No, there was a case where a patient was admitted with appendix, and there was a threat for perforation, and because nobody was there to give consent and he was not giving consent, the doctor walked off and he said, okay, we'll come tomorrow and see. By that time, there was perforation, peritonitis, patient died. Then the court has said that there's no need for waiting for a consent. You doctor should have done the surgery without the consent.
Agreed, madam. Whenever there is a life-threatening situation, you can go ahead with the consent. If there's no one to give consent, you can take the consent of the medical superintendent, or you can call your colleague, show him the case, and you can together do the case. Go ahead. You cannot walk out of an emergency. That is true.
Okay, I think I'll come in here, and Rahul was very smart actually. When this topic was given to him, Rahul even mentioned Jamuna for you, the Prabha Manchanda case, which told us that the consent is supposed to be real and valid. I mean, he gave the point to you on a platter. The point was the consent. The Supreme Court never expects our consent to be an informed consent. It is supposed to be real and valid, which means that you are not supposed to tell all the risk that the patient will shun away from the surgery. You are not supposed to talk about all the advantage that the patient will not even consider any alternative surgery. So what the Supreme Court of our country expects us to do when we are taking a consent is that the consent has to be real and valid, not informed. So this kind of an understanding that we have in our country, that in our Supreme Court expects our consent to be an informed consent, similar to the consent that are taken in the United States of America, in which the consent runs in number of pages. That is not expected in our courts by our Supreme Court. What we are expected to take is to strike a balance. Yes, Rahul, I'm going to come to you. I know what you are trying to say. So I'm just giving an overview to all our viewers that our Supreme Court does not expect our consents to be the informed consent. However, having said that, when we interact with many of the Supreme Court judges, and me, Dr. MC Patel, Dr. Nikhil Datar, when we were actually sitting together to formulate our consent, which are there on the Foxy website, as Dr. MC Patel told us, they said, even if the Supreme Court is not expecting our consents to be informed consent, it is for abundant caution that every time we are taking a consent, it should seem to be like an informed consent. So I am with Rahul also, and I'm with Jamuna also. So when there are situations like it's an emergency surgery, there we are not even considering a consent. That is a different part. Here the debate was whether it has to be an informed consent or it has to be a real consent. So the answer, both of you are correct, that it did not be an informed consent, but however, when we actually formulate our consent, it should seem to be like an informed consent, unless it is an emergency situation. Yes, Rahul, come in.
Yeah, 1 minute before Rahul goes, Dilip.
Yeah.
Informed consent is a part of real and valid consent.
Yeah. So what our Supreme Court is telling us is not that I am supposed to tell that patient everything. Okay, MTP ke liye tu aayi hai, you have got 0.01% chances of dying on table. You're not supposed to do that. I mean,
exactly.
You feel that, like Rahul said, that you have to tell everything. You are supposed to do that even when you're doing a DNC. Are you supposed to say that you're likely to die on table when I'm doing a DNC? No, that is not what our Supreme Court is expecting. Our Supreme Court is expecting us to strike a balance whenever we are talking about consent. And that's the reason why when we formulated, MC Patel and everybody chipped in, when we formulated a consent, we are very subtly mentioning that in every anesthesia, there is a possibility of mortality. Instead of saying that you've got 0.01 or whatever percentage of dying on table, if you say that your chances of dying on table while doing a case like a DNC is very, very minimal, the same information is given in a different form. And then if you go on your Foxy website and read all the consent, you will realize that actually we have spoken about everything. Despite the fact that we have spoken about everything, the consent doesn't appear to be that frightening to the patient. So that is how we have, so that's the reason why, as MC Patel told, every sentence that is there in the consent that we have drafted, we have given a lot of thought. Okay, will this sentence look very intimidating? I mean, will the patient read this and be afraid of it? And that's how we have done it. And we don't claim that our consent is perfect. We want people like Rahul, we want people like Jamuna to go read that consent and give our input, so that year by year, our consent eventually will become a good consent. So that's how we are looking at it.
Yeah, Dilip sir, I have gone through whatever you said is correct. it has been incorporated each and every point. Like you are telling everything, but the patient cannot say ki you have not been told this point or that point or that point. So you are great people, three of you, Patel sir, yourself, Dilip sir, and Nikhil sir, great. And for Rahul, I tell you that you are on proper side. But Jamna Devi madam, I really appreciate your courage that being on wrong side also, you are appreciating Rahul. That is the basically greatness of you. That for the benefit of listeners or the delegates, you are accepting that. The others debaters side. Thank you very much. Great.
Rahul wants to say something.
As far as I know, there is no perfect consent. Always consent can be individualized, and it should be according to the situation. Though we take the general consent as a guiding force.
Okay.
No,
So,
but
to take forward what Dr. Dilip Palke said
it should not be general consent, because that is why we have come up with 30 different consent. So in each and every consent, if you go for cesarean section, if you go for hysterectomy, if you go for medical termination, you will find that there is something different. So consent should be procedure specific or operation specific, not in general. If we go with general consent, that it will be considered as a blanket consent. So blanket consent has no
blanket is never accepted.
No value in eye of law.
Yeah, Jamuna, not only it is supposed to be procedure specific, but it is supposed to be patient specific also.
Yes.
So if you go through and read the consent, we have also included some blanks wherein we are supposed to, like if your patient has got, say, hypertension, or your patient has got some cardiac problem. So if it was just a general consent, then it would not have mentioned anything about cardiac problem. So that's the reason why in our consent, we have left out spaces, blank spaces, where you are supposed to fill up anything which will be specific for that for the patient, so that ultimately your consent will be seen as not only surgery specific, but your consent will be seen as patient specific also. So while Rahul is absolutely correct in saying that it has to be an informed consent, Jamuna, you are also right in saying that it need not be informed consent in our country. You have to strike a balance. However, having listened to both of you, eventually when people like us sit down, we actually draft an informed consent only, but worded in such a way that it will not shun away the patient from either being too excited about doing the surgery or being afraid about getting the surgery done. All the things. Rahul, your point.
For the benefit of the listeners, like in the situation where there's a life-threatening emergency, what is the basic minimum of care? Like can we just forgo the consent in that respect, like for an emergency hysterectomy, or what should be done in those situations?
See, the law says that in an emergency, life-threatening situation, there will be no need for taking a consent. Like you're doing a surgery, say you're doing a cesarean, and there is atonic patient, the patient is under anesthesia, then there is no point in taking the consent, because consent taken of the relative is technically not a consent. You're supposed to take the consent of the patient. There you have done the hysterectomy without taking the consent of the patient, or you put in a scope for, say, appendicectomy, and you found that the patient is having a ruptured ectopic. You're not going to come out and tell the patient you had an ectopic and then you will do the surgery. You will go ahead and do the surgery. Technically, it becomes a surgery without consent. But otherwise, see, sometimes it is very difficult to say. Like supposing if your patient had, say, an accidental hemorrhage, and she comes to you, she's conscious, and you want to do a cesarean, and she says, nahi karne ka mera cesarean. Technically, the law says that you can do this cesarean without her consent. But वो patient को उठा के हाथ पैर पकड़ के हम लोग theater में लेके जा सकते हैं क्या? I mean, there are sometimes there are questions which are difficult to answer. I mean, can you actually fight the patient and pick her up and put her and give anesthesia despite the fact that she doesn't want to get the surgery done?
Aspects are like some.
That will be forceful, no? That is
exactly. So sometimes, we tend to make statements as medico-legal experts that, yeah, you can do a surgery without consent if it is a life-threatening situation. But life-threatening if the patient is not conscious. Suppose the patient is conscious or patient बहुत हट्टी है, relatives ने बोला कर डालो सीजर, लेकिन पेशेंट बोलते हैं नहीं करने का, then what can you do? ऐसा उठा के अंदर लेके जा सकते हैं क्या? These are some of the unanswered questions, but then you have to manage as per the situation that has come in front of you.
Like in laparoscopy, doing a laparoscopy, we need additional procedures, though we do take a blanket consent that, there can be a change in procedure.
But so I want you to answer, ma'am. Now, supposing you put in a scope, right? And आपको कुछ additional surgery करना है. तो आज तक आप क्या करते थे? Like you put in a scope for something and you found there is an ovarian cyst and you felt.
But like removal of gamete, if the woman has not specifically consented prior to surgery, can it be?
Yeah, ma'am. I mean, removal of gamete is a different perspective, and I'm not an infertility expert, but I'll give you a simple perspective.
Yeah,
like you put in a scope and you found that there is an ovarian cyst, and you feel that in good faith it is better to go ahead and do that ovarian cystectomy. लेकिन आपने consent लिया नहीं. आज की तारीख में आप राहुल को पूछो, आज की तारीख में आप एमसी पटेल को पूछो, or any medico-legal expert, he will say, as per the Prabha Manchanda case, you are not supposed to do any additional surgery in good faith unless you took the patient out of anesthesia, took her consent, and again put in a scope and then do the excision. But सालों से जमुना मैडम हम लोग ऐसा करते थे ना, used to call a relative inside और बोलते थे देखो इधर एक cyst है, निकालेगा तो अच्छा हो जाएगा, and then we used to remove. और कोई अपने को बोलता था क्या कुछ? So all these days we used our wisdom. Our hair become grey by doing that only. हम लोगों ने ऐसे ही किया. So now why just because Supreme Court has given a judgment should we change? And this is what we also thought. We gave it a lot of thought. And as Dr. MC Patel told us, we were in sync with many of the Supreme Court judges, retired Supreme Court judges, retired and acting Supreme Court judges, and that Maharashtra Law Institute. And they gave us an idea, and we have put it, and I don't know whether it is going to stand the taste of our law. And whenever such a case goes in the court, I don't know whether we are going to get a favorable result or not. What we are doing is we are taking a consent like a power of attorney. Like supposing if I'm doing a laparoscopy on a patient, I take a consent from the patient beforehand. That patient gives a consent that if the doctor finds something which can be an additional surgery to my surgery, which did not be life-threatening, that I give consent to the doctor to ask my husband, my father, my brother, my so-and-so, whosoever to whom the power of attorney has been given, and the surgery may be done. Now, when we included this in our consent form, which will be there on the FOXKI website, we were afraid that this will not be seen properly in the eyes of law by many of these medical legal experts. But to our surprise, they said, yes, you can do it. So we have tried it. We have put it in the consent. And only time will tell that even when such case goes in the court and whether they will accept it, I don't know. But then sometimes it is better to try out, and only when you try out will we get an answer.
So one question I want to ask: if we have taken a consent before for ligation previous to section, and once the baby is born, it is a baby girl, and if the patient says that I don't want ligation, what are we supposed to do in that case?
We should follow the patient.
Do not do.
No,
please
don't.
Do not do.
Not to do.
I mean, once the patient told you not to do, so please do not, because then you can always later on say that though the patient had given a written consent for tubectomy, I did not do it because while no court is going to ask you, "Aapne usne to diya tha. What is the evidence that while doing the surgery, patient ne aapko aisa bola vagare?" We tend to be afraid about these things, and we feel that the courts are so unreasonable that they're not going to even believe me that the patient during the surgery told me so. Court is going to believe you, and then you can write it in your notes that during the surgery, while I was speaking to the patient, because the patient was under spinal and not under anesthesia, she refused. So she has got a right to refuse her consent at any time before the surgery was done.
Yes, true.
A person can withdraw his or her consent before doing the thing.
Yeah.
Withdraw kar sakti hai.
I think so. There are only two alternatives. So this can be discussed beforehand, that in case it's a girl baby, what is your...
Yeah, that can be.
No, see, Diksha, one situation is there. If she has given the consent and the baby has not cried. So in that situation, if she says, no, just wait. So we have to wait.
To ask again.
Yeah.
And what about, sir, if the pediatrician says that you don't go for ligation?
No. Who is pediatrician to say like that?
No. Then
baby is born, baby has some problem, and if they say that don't do ligation now, and patient has already given consent before, so in that
No,
situation,
no. Pediatrician can open, he cannot.
No. Good question.
We have to.
Because in
Yes.
this type of situation, whatever you do in a good faith of patient, it is
Yeah,
always
that's
pardoned.
true. True.
So if pediatrician has suggested that baby is not well and it is not advisable to go for tubal ligation, even though patient has given consent, you can postpone.
Yes.
can postpone.
Exactly. Yes.
At that time.
Yeah, Rahul.
Yeah, I would like to put my point. I took this debate as a common man, not as a medico-legal expert. So I didn't take it as a differentiation between real and valid consent and informed consent. It was consent
Rahul,
and
I
no
know
consent.
if you were debating with someone like Manish Matswe or Gitendra Sharma, then you would have gone into all the detail of a definition of a real and informed consent. But it was interesting.
To add to it, even in this decision, the Supreme Court has said right now we are not following the principles of informed consent, but as public awareness improves and the law means knowledge of the patient improves, we will have to slowly shift to informed consent. It has happened in Australia, it has happened in Canada. They have shifted from real and valid consent to informed consent. So similarly, in our practice, whenever there is an educated patient who is knowledgeable, who understands things, probably it is better to have a well-informed consent rather than just a real and valid consent.
Exactly, Rahul. You're absolutely right. And that's the reason why you will be surprised when you go on the Foxy website for our informed consent that we have even devised a consent for a natural vaginal delivery. Because there is no such thing like a natural delivery when she comes to our hospital. Eventually, she lands up with some Pitocin drip. She may land up with an episiotomy. So we are also talking about taking a consent for natural vaginal delivery. And we say you take this consent during the antenatal period when she came in labor. And at that moment, if something goes wrong and then you have to do a cesarean, you take a separate consent for cesarean also. But if she's going to deliver normally vaginally with say episiotomy or for whatever, she may land up with episiotomy, she may land up with a manual removal of placenta and things like that. She should be made aware of everything. So we are talking about consent for a natural vaginal delivery also, in addition to other things.
Yes. Though it is natural, still it is assisted when she comes to hospital.
Yeah.
So we have included that consent also in that list.
And I actually want opinion about that consent more than any other consent, because we are still not sure as to what to include and what not to include when it comes to natural vaginal delivery. Are we making our patients too aware about everything that goes in a natural vaginal delivery is what our concern is. So I would be happy if you go read that and then give your suggestions about what is to be included, what is to be edited and things like that.
Thank you.
I will.
Thank you so much to our debaters, Dr. Rahul Wani sir, Dr. Jamuna ma'am, for such an interesting session, and to our respected chairpersons, Dilip sir and Ajay sir, for clearing so many of our doubts. And I think it was very interesting session for everyone to be aware of so many consents which are available on the website for all the Foxy members, which I think everyone should go through and use in our daily practice. So thanks a lot to all our respected faculty, and over to Pratibha Singh ma'am to wind up.
Poll question, Dr. Diksha.
Yes. There's still a poll question to go, which is on the same topic, that and to know the view of our all our listeners as to do they think that the consent is mandatory in every situation. So can we have the poll question, please? So no surgery should be performed without prior informed consent. This was our topic of debate today, and the same question is being posed to the audience as well.
अरे नो वाले है कि उसमें
है थोड़े है.
So हमारा इतना इफेक्टिव नहीं हुआ. मेरी बात सुन लिए सब लोग, देखो.
नहीं. We appreciate your courage, madam.
Madam, yeah, that's what I said. We appreciate your courage, and for the benefit of the listeners, you agreed to Rahul.
Basically. No, it only shows that no one has won this debate. I mean, neither Rahul nor Jamuna. So both of them made their points, and both of them.
Dilip sir,
Yeah.
just I wanted to ask you about that section 88 of IPC. It gives permission to the relatives to give consent in good faith. What do you say about that?
No, I'm not aware. I mean, maybe MC Patel may be aware of that section 88. मुझे नहीं पता.
It is called proxy consent.
What did you say? I didn't listen. Can you repeat?
In a good faith, a relative can give on consent on behalf of the patient. If the patient is not in condition to give consent.
Patient has given that consent that in this type of situation, my relative can give consent.
No, not like that. Patient met with an accident and he is under coma and all the things, and he has to be operated.
Emergency situation, and whatever you do in good faith, it is always fine.
Even there, Ajay, you need not even. I mean, even if you have not taken consent of the relative,
then also you can very well go with.
Yeah, obviously, but that is life-threatening condition. But
one more incident I can say: famous case of Permanent Katara. Permanent Katara case is what court has. You first treat the patient. All the formalities after. You first treat the patient. So you can take advantage of or benefit of this type of precedent or decided cases also in this type of situation, if at all we are facing any litigation.
Yes.
Because
and even under mental
burden of proof is always on your shoulder to prove that it was an emergency, it was immediate necessary to save life of patient. So your recording should be up to date. And you can have opinion from some
and even
your colleague also that this is the situation, and in this given situation this is the best modalities of treatment, and we are going with this. So that way, if you can prove in court of law, then you are out of problem. Yes, Dilip? Anything to add?
You're absolutely right. I think we can wind up this debate by saying that informed consent is one thing which is going to be the new thing that is coming up, as Rahul said, that when our clients mature and they have become more and more knowledgeable, even our Supreme Court will expect our consents to be typically an informed consent, the way it is taken in the United States of America. So we have to be proactive about it, and we have to put a lot of thought into how all our surgery specific consent. So our job is to, I mean, myself, MC Patel and Nikhil Datar together, our job was to just make a beginning. We have made a beginning by actually formulating our informed consent, which is there on the Foxy website. It is upon us to have a look at it every now and then, every 6 months, every 1 year. You have a look at it, suggest changes so that eventually our consent, and since it is a Foxy endorsed consent, courts will also give importance to that, because if you are doing a surgery after having taken a Foxy endorsed consent, that will give you an edge,
some weightage,
consent that you may have in the court of law.
And that is why during my talk also I mentioned that we are open. We are open, Dilip, Nikhil and myself, we are open. Whatever suggestions are received through Foxy, we will sit together again, we will discuss again to consider that comment. And we may come with edited consent, no problem.
And fortunately here amongst the faculty members here, there are many who are going to be the future of Foxy, the aspirants for vice president's post, the aspirants for Foxy president's post. So I think this project of ours for consent should be an ongoing, it cannot be a project of one president or 1 year. It is a project which will be ongoing.
Yes, true, sir. True. Great.
Yeah. I think it's a dynamic process, not a stagnant one.
Very much.
So over to Dr.
Thank you so much, sir, and over to Pratibha Singh, ma'am, for the vote of thanks, please.
So I'm here for vote of thanks, and first of all, I would like to thank each and everyone present here today for this webinar. Thank you so much for joining, my all viewers. And first and foremost, my sincere gratitude to our guest, Dr. Sanjay Gupta sir, Dr. Basa Mukherjee, Dr. Manish Machave, for their blessings. And thank you so much for sparing your valuable time and knowledge with us. And from the bottom of my heart, I would like to thank Dr. MC Patel sir for such elaborate and clear-cut explanation regarding how to deal with different medico-legal situations in obstetric practice. Thank you, sir, for such wonderful talk. And I am also thankful to our chairpersons and judges, Dr. Rajan Singh Pardesi, sir, Dr. Dilip Walke, sir, Dr. Gorak, sir, Dr. Ajay Mane for their active involvement and interaction. It was a wonderful session. And hats off to our debaters for such mind-boggling and thought-provoking argument. Thanks to Dr. Rahul Vani and Jamna Devi ma'am for accepting the challenge and making the debate so informative and interesting. So thank you so much for joining. And first and finally, I would like to thank my conveners, Dr. Priyankur Roy, Dr. Diksha, for coordinating the program so smoothly and efficiently. And here I also want to thank our academic partners, Shield Connect, for their constant support, Mr. Saurabh, Ms. Chitrikala, and Mr. Steven. And now our next webinar will be in February next month, and it will be on the important obstetric problem with yet another teacher of teachers. So till then, stay safe and healthy, and thank you for joining. Thank you once again. Goodbye and good night. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Pratibha ma'am. Thank you, MC Patel sir.
Philip sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
I want to wish all of you good luck for your contesting for chairperson.
Thank you, madam. Thank you
We
very much.
really need your support and wishes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Nice seeing you,
क्या
Dilip.
कुछ कपड़े भी चेंज करके आ गए?
घर आ गए ना सर अभी change.
Okay, nice seeing you all.
Sure, bye.